But Leonard Nimoy was really Judy's inspiration. One of the reasons she wanted to write for Star Trek as opposed to some other television program is she had developed an infatuation for Leonard Nimoy. She was a great fan of his. So she wanted to meet him, and she figured the only way, she was a finagler, and you had to figure out the only way she was going to meet Leonard Nimoy was to write a Star Trek script and get the darn thing sold. So the interesting thing that happened, though, was, of course, she did meet Leonard Nimoy during the Star Trek experience, because Judy spent a lot of time on the set getting acquainted with everybody, because I think by that time she had decided she was going to make Hollywood her career. So when she moved to Mission Impossible, Star Trek had gone off the air and Leonard Nimoy was looking for a job. So Judy said, "Hey, you guys, why don't you hire Leonard Nimoy?" So Leonard Nimoy went to Mission Impossible because Judy got him the job there. So there is a connection.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the author podcast. I get to talk to some of the most amazing people in the world of writing. And Chester's here with me today. We're going to be talking about his journey as an author. This gentleman is so much fun to talk to, and you're really going to enjoy not only what he's writing about from his perspective as an author, but also just his background, his history. There's so much to talk about on the show. We've had a chance to chat already. We're back now to do the interview. Chester, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. So glad to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's really good. You're out there talking about your journey as an author. You're doing podcasting. What's fun for you as a guest being on a podcast? This is a whole new world, right?
I just like meeting new people. I mean, people who do podcasts are by themselves very interesting because they get out of their shell and go on the air and talk to everybody. And so you're probably a very interesting guy, Dave. I'm glad I had a chance to meet you.
I tell everybody, Chester, my wife finds me mildly interesting from a safe distance. That's what she does. So
Very good.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's good. Let's talk a little bit, Chester. Let's start with where you are in this big world of ours. I'm up in Canada, but where are you?
I'm in California, Southern California, little town called Thousand Oaks, which is one of the garden spots of the planet. It has got perfect climate, nice people, way laid back. I guess my best description of this town, it's a little piece of 1950 California moved into the 21st century.
Ooh, that's a great description. I like that.
Yeah.
Have you been there your whole life? Is that?
Oh, no. We moved here in 1987.
Okay.
So it's 40 years, almost 40 years.
Yeah. Excellent. Beautiful. Well, I get to travel the world with a podcast. So I'm up in Canada. We're getting close to fall. So the weather's getting colder and sweaters and
trees
stuff.
Are pretty.
Trees are pretty, yeah. Snow's not so pretty, just so you know. That part
I've had that experience too, but I live here, not there.
Yeah. There's a reason. So I'm a little bit jealous. But no, it's good. Chester, let's start talking a little bit about
By the way, it's 80 degrees.
80? Oh, come on. All right. Well, now you're hurting my feelings on purpose.
Yes, I know.
Thanks for that one. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your journey as an author, Chester. What was it for you early on that made you interested in the idea of, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna be an author. I'm gonna get my stories out there. What was it for you that inspired you to come down this path?
Tragedy. My wife died. She literally collapsed in front of me and her heart stopped while I was holding her.
Wow.
So, the experience of calling 911 and waiting and hoping and knowing that every minute is going to be lethal. The experiences, people who've been through this, and almost everybody goes through this at one time or another in their lives. It's an indescribable experience. You can't tell somebody who's not had it what it's like. Mm. But you go to hell, basically. Yeah. It's the best description that I have of what hell really is. And so in preparing for the funeral, I had to write a eulogy. And when I started to write the eulogy, what I found was it lifted my spirits. It changed a little bit of how I was feeling. Not a lot, but a little bit, enough to get me through the day. So I wrote the eulogy. And then we had a really nice funeral mass, and we had a great party. I had people, friends, my wife, Sarah, her friends and my friends came from all over Southern California and various other places to attend the burial memorial. And we had a great wake, but it was a post wake. It wasn't. And I found just how much people coalesced around me, neighbors, friends. It was really quite a remarkable. And then I slipped back into the depression after that experience. And then I just decided, since it worked when I was writing the eulogy, I might start writing again. So I decided to start writing stories. I had a lot of stuff to draw upon. I had journals that I had kept in my travels. And I had a lot of interesting experiences. And of course, I had the things that I shared with Sarah. So I started writing my attitude was, hey, Sarah is where she is. I'm going to write her a letter. And so each one of those stories I envisioned as being a letter to Sarah, talking about reminiscing old times and talking about interesting things. And the stories just kept piling up, and, it wasn't just one or two stories. It just got to be more and more and more. So that's how I got into it. And what happened was each story lifted me like it's another step in a staircase that I had to climb. And it's a staircase that I climbed back to, not to normality, but something close to being able to survive and laugh again and enjoy life a little bit more. Wow. And the interesting thing is that Sarah never lost me, never left me at all. I mean, it's like her spirit is always there. It's always in the house. It's always around me. And it's in all the stories, every story that I wrote. And I've written a lot. There's 3 books now.
So, okay, let's talk about Sarah. Let's talk about her life, how you guys met. Let's talk a little bit about Sarah.
Well, we met at a party. Actually, we met at 2 different parties, 2 different social clubs that we belonged to independently. So I guess there was some fate involved in meeting. Sarah's background, she moved to Southern California after having been a celebrity up in the state of Washington. And she was getting rid of the importunity of being a public figure up there. She was, first of all, I guess the best word I have to describe this lady was splendid. She was intellectually brilliant, versed in so many different skills. She had a degree in anthropology. She had a master's degree in English literature. She had a master's degree in music, and she had a master's degree in psychology.
Oh my gosh!
Wow. And she was a licensed psychotherapist as well. So living with a psychotherapist is interesting. Yeah, she said, early in our relationship, she said, my goal here is to sand off your rough edges. I don't see she completely succeeded at that, but she did a pretty good job.
There you go.
So it was an interesting experience living with this. She had sang with the Seattle Opera. She had been invited to join the Metropolitan Opera in New York, which she turned down. Wow. For a variety of reasons. And as a psychotherapist, she specialized in dealing with criminals.
Wow.
Which on one occasion, I met one of her clients, scared me to death. But she was absolutely fearless.
Wow.
She had these people under complete control, which was amazing. Oh, and there's one other thing. So she's a strawberry blonde, okay, and a very pretty lady.
Yeah.
And she's also an American Indian. She was adopted into the Nez Perce Indian tribe. She was doing some anthropology work there And the tribal shaman, a lady named Ella, said, "Hey, I'll just train you in tribal shamanary affairs and things like that." So Sarah became a tribal shaman.
Wow.
I had never heard it completely, but I think she was actually adopted by Ella when she was adopted into the tribe.
Wow.
So she has a foster mother who was an Indian. So it'll give you some indication of just how extraordinary this lady was and what of a loss it was to lose her. I mean, it wasn't not a trivial thing at all. Well, it isn't for anybody who loses a loved one, of course. But what an experience I had for 20 years living with this lady.
She had amazing taste, too. She picked you, Chester.
Well, thank you.
Come on, right?
I'll accept the compliment.
There you go. Good. She picked you. I love that. That's amazing. You talked about how writing helps when you're faced with something so traumatic as losing the love of your life. Like, to write the eulogy, words have power, right?
Yeah, they do.
And being able to take something from your heart and put it out into the world through that, and then using writing in your way to battle through your own personal depression as you lose your partner. Like, I don't think people realize how powerful words can be.
They are,
write, right?
They are. One of the things that happens, of course, is you're putting yourself on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people who write fully understand. It doesn't matter what you write. You could be writing a mystery novel. You could be writing science fiction, with alien races, and you could be writing a university textbook. Anytime you write, you expose yourself to the people who read what you're writing.
Yeah.
You have to get used to that fact, or you have to be aware of that fact that you're exposing yourself, and you have to be willing to do that. It's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand, and you have to be willing to do that. The term I've used is you stand naked in front of the world when you write, and it doesn't matter what you write. And by the way, I've read some really good textbooks, and I've read some really, really bad textbooks, which tells me an awful lot about the guy who wrote the darn thing.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, you can't hide. When you write, you hide. You cannot hide. You expose yourself. And you just get used to that, Okay. So people are going to find out who I really am, sort of. Right. Keep a few things hidden, obviously.
It is a way to put yourself out into the world, and in that part too, you don't know how you're going to be received by the world as you write. You don't.
Well, you know that as a podcaster, you're very familiar with that.
Yeah, you put yourself out for scrutiny, for opinion, for people to say yes or no to what you do. And that can be a little unnerving, but when the power of writing, for me, the power of podcasting, but for the power of writing, and just the fact that you have a story to tell, it's healing for you as a creative person to get those words out. But when people start to then enjoy what you do and reach back out to you and say, Chester, I love what you right? Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I will talk about that, but before I get into that, one thing I learned from Sarah was you got to have boundaries. You got to say, okay, people can come at you and they can get so far, but they can't get beyond that boundary unless you let them in.
Right.
Unless you let them in. So, for example, if you write, I've written a lot of essays. I've published essays in magazines, and those essays are going to get some criticism from people who don't agree with what I've expressed, and I accept that. But one thing I realized early on in the game, when I first started writing essays and wondering, how am I going to receive the criticism? What am I going to do, and so on. What I realized was the critic is not talking about me. He's talking about himself. Mm. He's exposing his own interior, not mine.
Right.
Now, he's reacting to me, but his reactions are his, not mine. Mm-hmm. And that's protective. That's a boundary. And that's something that Sarah taught me. And it's good for every writer to know. When you expose yourself to the world and you get negative feedback from that exposure, it's the other person that you're viewing it,
Right.
not yourself.
Yeah. That's good.
But the positive feedback is wonderful. Boy, it is gratifying.
Right.
People say, hey, I really love that story. That was so much fun. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to entertain people, trying to entertain Sarah, and, people are along for the ride.
What do you think Sarah would think of all this, where you are today?
She'd be absolutely delighted. I'm sure she's looking over my shoulder.
Right.
That.
Oh, yeah.
I feel that every moment.
Was Sarah an avid reader as well?
Well, as a master's degree in English literature, I
so.
imagine she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have shelves of books, and several of the shelves of books are her books, which of course I've kept. Some of them I've donated to the local university, things of that sort. But, and I'm probably going to have to do another. I keep collecting books. It's one of my, if you have to have a vice, that's one of them. One of these days, sometime in the next couple of centuries, I'll get around to reading all of the books that I've collected.
Well, if you keep writing, you're going to keep collecting books then, because you have your own books now. So there you go.
Yeah. So I've got one book was published a couple of years ago. The second book, which I have on display here, is available for people to get a hold of in beginning of October.
Okay.
And that'll be available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and presumably some of the bookstores that'll be involved as well. And then the third book is written. It's sitting in the background waiting for edit. So that's, once I get through with promoting this book, we go into heavy editing on the third book as well. So that'll come out probably in a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing.
And that's it. That's a trilogy. I'm written out at that point.
Good. Okay.
I've exposed everything about me that I want to expose.
Right.
Good and bad, by
There
the
you
way.
go. Okay.
Everybody suffers reversals. I've had those as well.
Yeah. So let's touch on, we're going to focus in on the book that's coming out soon. But let's go back and talk about that first book as well for listeners and new readers who are finding you for the first time. Chester, we want to show them the breadth of what they have available to them to come and buy your books and support you. Let's talk a little bit about that first book, because I think that first book is the book that takes a lifetime to write, right? And then the second book kind of falls in.
I'm
right?
in my mid-80s, so I've got a substantial amount of stuff to cover.
There you go. Okay, so let's talk about that first book. Give us the title of the book and what's kind of the big idea for the reader.
Let's see. From the Potato to Star Trek and Beyond, Memoirs of a Rocket Scientist. And believe me, I did not invent that. My editor invented that particular title for the book, but it's a good title, and it attracts a lot of attention. Well, obviously, so I was involved with the potato, which I won't talk about. You have to read the book to find out about that.
Thank you. Very good.
But it was a very deadly potato. I still have scars from the potato, from that encounter with the potato. And then there was the Star Trek, and I suppose I have scars from the, I have more interesting experiences from the Star Trek, because I collaborated with a school friend of mine, Judy Burns, and on a speculative script for Star Trek, and through a variety of machinations, which are described in the first book, we actually sold the script. It went on the air. It was a very successful show. Among other things, the show won an Emmy for special effects, and it ended up, the script that Judy and I wrote ended up on display in the Smithsonian. So
wait a minute. That doesn't happen often. Come on.
No. So there's something called a rainbow script, because every modification, every update to the script when it's in preparation, they change the color of the page. So every new page that goes into the script as a replacement has a different color than previous. So the scripts that actually go before the actors for shooting are called rainbow scripts, because they're very colorful. So I was walking up the stairway in the American History Museum at the Smithsonian, and And the first exhibit that they had on, as you got to the top of the stairs, was the Star Trek exhibit. And right smack in the middle of the Star Trek exhibit was our rainbow script for the Tholian Web story. You can imagine what I felt like being center stage in the first exhibit at the Smithsonian.
What? Wow.
What a thrill. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, true. So you have to read the book in order to find out what all was involved in that. But it was a very, very interesting experience to be involved with the original Star Trek, third season of the original Star Trek.
Wow.
And it made the career for Judy Burns. She went from there to being a writer at Mission Impossible, and then writer. She was story editor on the Star Trek movies, and was writer and producer of many very successful TV programs. And then the last creation, and it was her creation, was the TV series MacGyver.
Come on.
So that's who I was partnered with in doing this Star Trek. But it was the beginning of her career and mine. And we just wrote the script on speculation. Maybe we could sell this thing.
Maybe. Wow. I did have
it was a remarkable experience going through all of that. And of course, watching Judy's career and being a participant on the sidelines as she developed her career.
Yeah, I did have the pleasure of having Adam Nimoy on my show. Mm-hmm. And he came on to he wrote a book about his father, Leonard. And when Adam came on my show, Chester, he sounded like his father. Hello, David. I'm like, oh my gosh, you sound just like your father. Oh my gosh. But yeah, what an amazing gentleman. And
Leonard Nimoy was really Judy's inspiration.
Yeah.
One of the reasons she wanted to write for Star Trek as opposed to some other television program is she had developed an infatuation for Leonard Nimoy. She was a great fan of his. So she wanted to meet him, and she figured the only way, she was a finagler, and you had to figure out the only way she was going to meet Leonard Nimoy was to write a Star Trek script and get the darn thing sold. So the interesting thing that happened, though, was, of course, she did meet Leonard Nimoy during the Star Trek experience, because Judy spent a lot of time on the set getting acquainted with everybody, because I think by that time she had decided she was going to make Hollywood her career. Mm-hmm. So when she moved to Mission Impossible, Star Trek had gone off the air and Leonard Nimoy was looking for a job. So Judy said, hey, you guys, why don't you hire Leonard Nimoy? So Leonard Nimoy went to Mission Impossible because Judy got him the job there.
Wow.
So there is a connection.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How did you and Judy connect then, originally?
We were political enemies.
Political enemies. There you go.
Yeah, no, we were both charter students at the new campus of UC Irvine, the University of California, Irvine. So we were there. We literally were in the first group of students that opened the door there. So they needed a student government. So I got elected to the Constitution Committee to help write the Constitution for the new student government. And Judy got elected. Judy had been student body president at the local community college, Orange Coast College. So she was involved in student politics. So she led the conservatives, and I led the liberals on. and you know, I mean, she's a talented woman. I'm going to pay attention to this lady. And we got to be really good friends as a result of that experience. But we did start out on the opposite sides of the political spectrum. That was how we got acquainted.
Excellent. So for your first book, anyone that loves potatoes or does not like potatoes, and anyone with an interest in Star Trek will really love that first book, for sure.
I think so. There's a lot of... I've had a really interesting career because my educational background is physics and engineering. I have graduate level education in both disciplines, And my career as an engineering physicist has been in the aerospace industry. So I've done all kinds of science fiction-y kinds of things for a profession. And along the way, I've met some of the most remarkable people. I mean, really, a handful of them at least are at the genius level. I mean, they really were extraordinary individuals. Behind the scenes, they helped shape the world we live in. They've done things that the world would be a very different place if they hadn't existed.
Wow.
So I put those people in my stories. I write stories about them, looking at their experience. And these are my friends, of course. These are people I got to know really pretty well. So a lot of the stories are about really interesting people that I've run into along the way. The way I write the books, by the way, every story is independent. It can be taken out of, and, every story stands alone. There's no time sequence or anything. They are just interesting events that happened along the way that I thought people would be interested in. And of course, I was interested in remembering about these people and experiences that I've had. So consider it a collection, a potpourri of various kinds of interesting stories.
Nice.
And collectively, if you look at all three books, it covers a lifetime. From the time my earliest story in the book, I was 3 years old.
Wow. Okay.
But I was precocious, and I have very, very, very clear memories that go all the way back to, my dad took a photograph of me when I was 9 months old, and I remember the occasion when he was taking the photograph. So that's how precocious I am. And
wow.
There were no blanks in my memory. It's continuous, going all the way back to that very early age. Yeah, which can be bad because I had some nightmares along the way, especially as a little child. I had some significant illnesses that gave me some really bad dreams. So I still have those dreams, by the way. I can remember in detail what those were like.
My gosh.
So everything, I don't write everything like that in the book, of course. Most of what happened in the books are very positive experiences. Although there are some negatives. I had to work for a psychopath for 4 years. So one of the stories in the first book is called Psychopaths. And I write about that experience. It turned out to be very good. I mean, I survived the experience pretty well. And it's an interesting story about the wiles and woolies of science fiction aerospace industry. But so I've run into some very negative people along the way as well as positives. I had good teachers and I've had bad teachers. And I've written a little bit about that. Other people have had similar experience. It's what I find in the feedback that I get from readers is readers really like the negative ones. Because apparently everybody's had a negative experience, and it's uplifting to other people to know that, hey, you can go through this and survive it. And somebody else had misery too. So I think, misery loves company, I guess.
I was just going to say that. Exactly. That's it. Misery loves company. That's amazing.
Yeah, but most of the stories are very upbeat,
The fact that you can recall those many things from your life, I can randomly find my keys, Chester. So I can't go back and take snapshots of my life the way you can. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I'm a visual person, and for example, in writing the Star Trek script, Star Trek is very, any script writing is, whether it's for movies or television or whatever, it's modular. So you write individual scenes, and the scenes can be assembled into various orders. And of course, when they shoot a movie, they do the same thing. They don't shoot the scenes in order; they shoot them out of order.
Yeah.
So I got in the habit of writing in a modular style, so I can move paragraphs and things around. But the way I wrote the Star Trek is we had worked out to begin with. We worked out a story treatment, so we knew where the story was going to go and what had to be in the story. And then Judy and I split and divided the scenes. I tended to specialize in the science end of the science, of the Star Trek, and Judy was a specialist in the people end of the Star Trek. So she tended to take those scenes, and I took the gee whiz kind of scenes. And then we would edit each other's work, to do a little bit of refinement, because it's always good to have a second opinion about what you're doing. But when I was writing the scenes, it's really interesting how that worked, because I'm a visual person. I knew where the scene had to go, and I would simply set up the circumstances, put the actors in the scene, let them start to talk. And I just wrote down what they said. But I would be visualizing what these actors were doing as they were walking around doing their job, except that they weren't the actors, they were the characters in the Star Trek environment. So if I was writing about Scotty and his interaction with McCoy, something of that sort, I'd see those characters. I wouldn't see the actors, I'd see the characters. Of course, they were the actors, but I'd see them as the characters, and I just write down what they said.
Wow, that's amazing.
And when I've written from my journals and written stories and things, I'm basically doing the same thing. I set up a listener in front of me, usually Sarah, but it could be anybody. It could be you know. And I tell a story to a listener.
Wow.
But as I'm telling the story, I'm visualizing the experience that I had and writing down the experience. I relive the experience, basically.
When you see that episode play back for you, your words with Judy creating that scene, and you see the actors give it life, what is that experience like? Is it like being in the Smithsonian and seeing the script on display?
No. It's well, first of all, the first time we saw that, in fact, I've only seen the episode 2 or 3 times, so I don't dwell on it. But we had a great party. Judy and I had a party at her parents' house.
Yeah.
And, oh, God, the place was packed with people, friends of all kinds. Judy had been taking a class from Bob Duncan in script writing. So Bob and his wife, Wanda, who is also a writer, were present. And of course, Judy's parents and sisters were there, and friends from school. And, it's just, place was, you couldn't sit. We all had to sit on the floor, except the parents, of course. Judy's parents sat on chairs, but the rest of us sat on the floor. And they had a color television. This was 1968.
Wow.
Color televisions were pretty rare at the time. So thing comes on the air. Judy's name and my name are on the screen. And
come on,
everybody is cheering, and then the story gets started, and it's got all kinds of jeopardy. It's got people dying. It's got a mutiny on board a ship, and all kinds of bad guys, things happening. And I'm watching these things, and I'm watching the scenes that I wrote, and what's on the air is almost the same as what I had visualized when I was writing it, but not quite the same. And it was really interesting to see it come alive for real, the way they had actually interpreted the words that I had written. It's an interesting experience. I'm glad I had it. It's the only time I've had it, but it was a good thing to go through. And of course, there was a lot of good cheer that evening, a lot of cheering of the screen. There was a time when you were enjoying something particular on the screen, you threw popcorn at it. So we had a bucket of popcorn, and there was a lot of popcorn that got bounced off the screen of that television.
There you go. That's amazing. Okay. So that's amazing. And I love that you have that writing relationship with Judy and seeing her launch from there as well. And that being part of her story, that she could share that with you. Talk a little bit now about the next book as well, Chester. Like where are you going in the second book that's coming out soon?
Well, the second book continues adventures that I've had in the first book. I have, of course, the aerospace industry adventures and the interesting people, really fascinating people that I've run into there. But then there was some outdoor adventure that I did quite a bit. I spent a decade, well, first of all, I grew up as a surfer. So I did a lot of surfing, particularly in graduate school, because UC Irvine is, it's in Newport Beach, and it's right on the coast where there's really outstanding surfing. The World Surfing Championship is held at Huntington Beach in September, usually every year. So that, have very high quality surfing. So I had a lot of that. And then I got really heavily involved in whitewater river running, both rafting and some kayaking as well. And so one of the things that I did for about a decade when I was doing the river running was I kept a daily journal. I just decided, this is going to be an interesting experience. Let me write down the day's events, which is what I did. And what I found was really interesting because along the way in the evening, people were wondering, what are you writing? What is it that you're writing about? And so I was inveigled one evening to write the day's events, what I had written about the day's events, and read it around the campfire. And I got a really interesting reaction because it turned out I had written a story about the day's events, which everybody around the campfire had participated in. And people thought it was a really good story, that I had somehow captured the spirit of the day in a way that they found very attractive. So I was encouraged after that to read my daily journal around the campfire. And that wasn't just one trip. That was a whole bunch of trips because I developed a reputation as a writer that spread through the whitewater community. And so people wanted to hear what I was putting down on paper, So I would read these stories. And so I have 10 years of journals, being a passenger and being a boatman, both on whitewater rivers, both in the United States, in Yukon Territory, in Alaska, and then one expedition over in Africa, in Ethiopia as well.
Wow.
So I have a lot of material to draw upon. And I've got stories about that in the first book, the second book, and the third book. It's scattered through the three books, adventures that I've had in the wilderness.
What would you say for an author that's listening, Chester, that wants to develop their storytelling skills and abilities?
Right.
Maybe they're a newer author, they're a newer writer.
Just write.
Yeah.
Write and
That's right.
write and write and write and write. It's like a great athlete. No great athlete starts out as a great athlete. A great athlete becomes one through long, continuous practice.
Yeah.
And it's the same with any skill. I'm really good at something called system architecture, which is a particular type of skill that I was trained in. That has to do with putting complex systems together in various ways. And I got good at that by doing it. People paid me to do it. So I did it to the best I could. And the more I did it, the better I got at it. So I'm pretty good at it by now. I'm retired now, but I'm became a very good system architect. And that's basically the last title I had was system architect for a major aerospace division. So
do you find that training finds its way into your writing then?
Yeah, but it's a different set of skills. What you write, technical writing technical proposals, or writing explanatory articles and things of that sort. It's a different set of skills, but in a sense, it's all the same because you're telling a story.
Yeah.
You're just telling a different kind of story. So yeah, I have no idea how many words I've written, but the books alone are close to 500,000 words. So, well, let's see, 3 books at about 85,000 each. It piles up, 250,000 at least. But when you look at all the other stuff that I've written over the course of a long lifetime and a long career, it adds up to a lot of words, and you get really skilled at it if you're telling a story. And I think that's one of the problems that I read when I read other people's technical work or articles they've written for journals and things like that. They don't tell a story, and it makes it very difficult to read their stuff sometimes. So whatever you do, tell a story and write. Just write and write. And also understand that you're writing, whatever you write, you're exposing yourself to the outside world. So you have to get used to that idea. You can write about green monsters on an alien planet, and you're still talking about yourself.
Right. Yeah. And connecting that story to an audience as well.
Yeah.
Right. What do you know about your audience of readers? Do you have somebody in mind that you're trying to write towards? You talk about having that conversation, and that's really important for you. What does that person
Well,
look
I
like?
think probably it's just people that I've run into over the years.
Yeah.
And it's an extraordinary range of people. For example, I've talked about some of the true geniuses that I've run into in the industry. There's a guy I know that I ran rivers with. He was a really interesting guy. He was penniless, absolute, didn't own any. He had to borrow clothes that he wore. He went into the woods in the Sierra Mountains and built a cabin, and he did odd jobs at the local town. His cabin was in the national park lands. The park rangers knew that he had built the cabin. They left him alone. This guy had friends everywhere. He was the most beloved person I think that I've ever run into. And he was totally penniless. So that's one end of the spectrum of people that I've run into. Absolutely wonderful guy to spend 2 weeks in the wilderness with. And I spent 2 weeks in the wilderness with a guy that after I became acquainted with him, was a new acquaintance. Turns out he was a multi-billionaire, one of the richest people in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. He built a huge business empire in the United States and overseas. And I had no idea. He was just a nice guy. And so we got along fine. So that's the spectrum.
Yeah.
So I've been from making friends with penniless people all the way up to billionaires.
Yeah.
And it's just an extraordinary experience. When you go out in the one of the things that you find when you go into the wilderness is you don't run into ordinary people in the wilderness. You run into people who take chances.
Yeah.
Who do unusual things.
Right.
And so when you're reading excerpts from my journals, multiple different experiences, the trips that I've been on, you're going to meet some really interesting people along the way because I write about those people. And they're not ordinary people by any means. They're extraordinary people with extraordinary backgrounds.
Amazing. Chester, can you give us any little sneak peek tip into what's coming down the road for the reader that's going, oh, Dave, please ask. I know it's early. We're celebrating book 2, but can you give us just one little nugget?
Oh, goodness. Maybe? Yeah, well, I'll give you a nugget from the second book. Okay. Have you ever wondered what it was like to be a monster in a monster movie where everybody was frightened to death of your existence?
Okay. Yeah. I'd be interested
That's a good teaser, isn't it?
That's a great one.
Yeah. Okay. So I had that experience, by the way. Scared people to death just being there.
Really?
So my last year as a regular hire, I was really sick and I didn't know it. In fact, I was dying. What happened was I had a hyperthyroid condition, a really serious thyroid condition. And I didn't discover it until after I left the job. And went to the doctor and I was going to I had a bad knee from a backpacking experience that I had gone through. And I wanted to get that knee repaired. And the doctor took one look at me, did the blood test in preparation for surgery. He says, you can't have surgery. I said, why not? He says, because the anesthetic will kill you. And that's when I found out I had this hyperthyroid condition. So the problem that you have is you can't undergo surgery to have your thyroid removed. So there's an alternative that they have, which is to give you radioactive iodine. And the radioactive iodine will kill the thyroid. But you become highly radioactive in the process. So the radioactive iodine has to be made either in a cyclotron or in a nuclear reactor. I think they made it in a nuclear reactor. And it has a very short half-life. So everything has to be done on a very precise schedule. It's literally timed to the minute. And so I go into the radiation clinic and I get into the back room and I have a Geiger counter that I had purchased for this experience. And so the Geiger counter is going off the scale, and I go in and there's a lead cylinder. And when the Geiger counter got near the lead cylinder that contained the radioactive pill, Geiger counter was bursting. And then the technician lifted the lid off the cylinder and poked into the cylinder and pulled with some tongs and pulled out this pill. He handed me a cup of water and he handed me this pill. So I'm looking at this pill. This pill is deadly poison. It's guaranteed to kill you. You have to, if you survive the experience, you get a daily anecdote. So I have a daily pill that I have to take in order to stay alive. But anyway, I've got this pill in my hand, and it's just a gelatin pill, and it's deadly poison. If I take this pill, I'm going to die if I don't get the antidote. So I take the pill. I'm committed. The technician backs all the way across the room, makes a measurement with his scintillator, and flees the room. This is a lead-walled room, by the way. And as I was walking out of the examination, well, call it an examination room. It was the lead room. And of course, nobody was going to stop me. I didn't have to sign any papers going out. What I found as I walked out of the room is everybody fled. They got as far away from me as they possibly could and still stay in the same environment. I was the monster walking out. I got to the car, and of course my Geiger counter was absolutely going crazy. It was off the scale. I got to the car, and I found out in the short walk to the parking lot, and it wasn't very far, most of the radioactive material had already gone into my thyroid. It had migrated from my stomach into my thyroid. And I had to stay isolated from the community for a month after that, until the radioactivity washed away. But yeah, I was a monster in a monster movie.
That's amazing. Okay, that's okay, everyone, that's worth the books right there. You got to go and buy all of Chester's books, the first two and the third one down the road as well.
Yeah, and there's tragedy. You know, I suffered a near fatal heart attack. I was literally within seconds of dying before the nitroglycerin got to my system and opened things up. So, you know, there's stories about that experience and what it's like to go through that. And then, of course, you know, I had my favorite psychopath I talk about, what it's like to deal with a character like that and what ultimately happened to him, which is interesting as well. And, you know, it's just, there's positives, there's negatives. And the trilogy of books covers a long lifetime, literally from almost infant, you know, 3 years old all the way up to current events, or very close to current events. So it's going to be an interesting read for people, I think. I've done a whole heck of a lot of stuff.
You have, and you can add podcasting to the list now too, and all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's really interesting. No, I've been on podcasts in Europe, in Spain, and Scotland, and in England. Canada, of course. Canada is a foreign nation. It's a nation I don't understand at all.
I don't either. I live here. Right. Yeah.
I find it very entertaining what's going on up there, but you know, I have no understanding of your part of the world.
We do that on purpose. That's how we do that. Chester, where do we send people that are interested in knowing more about you, knowing more about your books?
Yeah,
is there a place you want to send
ChesterLRichards.com is a website that I have.
Okay.
I have, well, I don't have the code for it right now, but I have an Twitter X site that people can go to, and a Facebook site as well. And, you know, look for Chester L. Richards. You'll probably hook me into both of those websites and also my, those social media sites. And then, of course, ChesterLRichards.com is my regular website. And in there's all kinds of interesting stuff. I didn't put the website together, by the way. My editor and publisher put that together. And but it's reflective. There's interviews like equivalent to podcasts that are on there that people can get a little broader view of the things that I've done. And also sample stories and things of that sort. So
there you go. Excellent. Well, we don't want anybody to run out of the room and try to escape from you.
No, I think, we have the internet to keep our distance, but, and I'm no longer radioactive, but I'm probably as scary as
Okay, good.
in a completely different way,
Well, Chester, I love talking to you. I love the stories. I think Sarah would be thrilled
Well, thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate it.
to see where you're landing, right? I think she'd just be thrilled. So thank you for making time to come on and share your stories with us.
Well, it's been a pleasure being here. It really has been fun.
Keep me in mind when the third book in the trilogy comes out. I'd love to have you come back.
I expect we'll get together again, if not before.
I'll hold you to that promise. Thank you, Chester.
Okay, very good.
Excellent. Everyone, all information for Chester, as always, in the show notes, we'll have link to his Twitter X, we'll have links to his Facebook and his website as well. Please reach out when you buy Chester's books. Leave him a review. Chester would love to hear your thoughts about the books, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's so much fun.
And I don't really mind if it's a negative review. I'd be very interested to see how you react in a negative way. So far, the reviews have all been 4 and 5 star, So I'm spoiled by the reviews.
Yeah, and I think this is a treat for anyone who loves Star Trek, MacGyver, Mission Impossible. All those people are parking up going, oh my gosh, this is so great to have that connection as well through Judy. And you're a very fascinating person to talk to, Chester. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you. Well, it's been my pleasure.
Excellent.
Really,
thank you,
truly.
Chester. And everyone, please reach out to Chester. I'd really love to hear from you. Again, Chester, thank you so much. Hey, thank you so much again for pressing play. As you've heard, great guests on the show. And one thing you didn't hear in this conversation is what? What did you not hear? Think about it for a second. That's right. Not a single solitary commercial for a mattress or a supplement or a whatever you call it. No. Why? Because we don't want to break up the conversation with commercials. So the fact that you're still here means that you are a fan of the show, I'm assuming. So if you want to help to keep the podcast going and to make me feel really happy, all I really care about is coffee, okay? I just got to be honest. I love coffee. I'm drinking one right now. It's starting to get cold. I need to warm it up. Helping us with our Buy Me a Coffee link over at livingthenextchapter.com and also in the show notes helps kind of keep the lights on around here. Remember, I'm doing this for free. I'm paying for everything. So I would love to have a little coffee donation, even $5 kind of fills up my cup. And I would love to enjoy a coffee from you. So if you're interested, again, thank you for listening. But you can use our Buy Me a Coffee link and fill up the cup. Thanks for being here.